mystics tell us if you want to have true holidays, they can be celebrated every day within yourself. Because your true home, your real place where you belong, where your real consciousness belongs, is inside you and not outside. Whatever we see outside has been created by our consciousness. And therefore, the reality of our own being is inside us. And a true celebration takes place inside us. There's nothing wrong with celebrating outside also, because outside has been created by the same force that exists inside. One mystic says, do not make any distinction between the outside and the inside. They are both arising from the same consciousness. Do not think that the outside creation is something to be run away from, and that the whole truth lies inside. We say go within not because outside is bad. We say go within because by going within you will find out that the outside and the inside were the same. The outside is being created by the same power of consciousness that creates all experiences inside. If this were not so, the role of a perfect living master in an outside world would be very limited. The truth is that when we find a perfect living master, a human being like ourselves, who has a consciousness of totality, while he's just a human being like us, the fact that such a person can exist in our created illusion of reality outside means that the outside is not as unreal as we think. There is no difference in the level of reality that can be created outside as much as can be created inside. That is why, if we cannot find our own self, if we do not know who we are, we can find ourselves and a true self outside of ourselves in the form of a perfect living master. A perfect living master is part of our perception. We see him, we create him. What really is the consciousness of a perfect living master is our own total consciousness. Our own totality, our own ultimate power, our own ultimate reality is reflected in a human being who comes outside into our life. A human being who comes as a perfect living master in our life is as human as we are, has the same life as we have. Indeed, if he has come for a specific mission, like if he has come to guide us to a spiritual totality, he will make sure that his life outside is compatible with our life outside. He will make sure that his language is similar to our language. He will make sure that his lifestyle is similar to our lifestyle. If one is rich, he'll be rich for that person. One is poor, he'll be poor for that person. If one lives in a big city, he'll go to the big city for that person. If one lives in a village, he'll go to a village for that person. Depending upon the condition of the seeker, who's seeking the truth and seeking reality, a perfect living master adjusts his own physical life and his own condition to the condition as required by compatibility and equality with the person who has come to see. They come specifically to pick up the marked souls who have been brought on their list, that at this time, in this part of the world, in this part of the seeking world, these souls are ready to go back home. They come and look at their list and they go wherever necessary to pick up those marked souls and take them home. So therefore, a human being who comes as a perfect living master into our life has not come to do anything like a philosopher will do. They'll become friends. They will be like us. Their thinking will attune to our thinking. They will deal with our day-to-day problems in this world as if it is their problems. They do not come just to give a general message. Their mandate is very different from the teachings of the philosophers, teachings of the gurus who come and give us a general message about the truth being inside us, that outside is being created as an illusion, and that if you want to find the truth, go within yourself, that there are various ways of meditating upon yourself, that the power of attention to be concentrated within yourself can give you experiences of higher realities, of different levels of creation, levels of consciousness. These are philosophies. There are these philosophies. People come and teach these philosophies. They are philosophers. They are teachers. They are not perfect living masters. Perfect living masters do not come to convey these teachings. They exist in thousands of books already written. Perfect living masters come here in human form like ourselves, specifically to pick up those who have been mandated that they will pick up in their lifetime. As the seekers of reality and truth who are fed up with their existence in this world get ready to go back home, these perfect living masters come into their lives and take them back home. Their mandate, their requirement is just to pick up those people. They do not come to change the world. They are not reformers. They do not come and lay any new doctrines. They do not come with any new philosophies. They do not teach any new paths. They go by these simplest of, oldest of paths already recorded in thousands of books in every language of the world. Because their purpose is to take us back home. And as we understand them better, they use the only method they have always used throughout the history of creation. They use the method of love and devotion to take us back home. There is no other method. All other methods, meditation, spiritual disciplines, dieting, following certain rules, are all meant for our minds. Our minds love rules. Our minds are only convinced if we have rules to follow. Therefore, they go ahead and lay down the rules for our minds, so that minds can be satisfied. This looks like a spiritual path. This looks like a mystical path. I am willing to follow it. I have to rationalize it. The mind wants to rationalize. They allow you to rationalize it. They give you a framework in which your mind has to be satisfied. Because if your mind is not satisfied, and the soul has been entangled with the mind for millions of years, there is no way that the soul will turn around and go back home. The mind is looking outward all the time to find answers to all its questions. It looks for answers outside in this physical world. It looks for answers in the intellectual world. It looks for answers in the world of logic. Looks for answers in the world of rationality. And always want to say, this makes sense, therefore I'm willing to follow. If it doesn't make sense, I will not follow it. The soul has no such requirement. Our reality has no such requirement. Our truth and reality is our soul, not our mind. A mind is an accessory added to the soul. It was used for a very good purpose, to add to the soul, so the soul could communicate, could experience, could create a reality in time and space. It was the most useful gadget the soul was ever given. If a soul which is pure consciousness, which is pure life, which is our pure self, if our own self was given such a beautiful gadget, like a mind, that could create different experiences in time and space, place them in a certain chronological order, connect each experience with the other by a law of cause and effect, what a beautiful thing it can do. A mind that could create sensory perceptions, a mind that could create an astral body and a sensory system, a mind that could create the illusion of being covered, the self being covered by a physical body. What else did you need? It was the most magical device ever given to a soul. Soul was pure consciousness. It could be conscious of anything it wanted. But what would it be conscious of? What creation will be around a soul if it didn't have these gadgetries around it? And the mind was the best gadget it could get. So the mind created this wonderful opportunity for experiences. And the soul went along with the mind and enjoyed it. But the mind had some other traits too, deliberately created. The other traits were negativity. Other traits were to have a desire for attachment, desire for variety of experiences, and the desire for going out into shadows and illusions and make them reality and look upon them as reality. This capacity of the mind to suppress and to make it into a reality and experience emotional, intellectual, and spiritual feelings is a great talent that was given to this mind. So the mind was a very useful thing. But the negative side of it was it got attached to whatever it created. And by attachment, it would be tied up with that. It almost created a trap for itself. And from the attachment, it was difficult to pull it away. It loved pleasure. It loved different sensory experiences. And therefore, the mind tied us over and over again to the different experiences it created and made it very difficult for the soul to find out who it really was, because it always functioned in this creation through the mind. So we have to distinguish between the accessory called the mind, functioning to create experiences for us, from our own self, which is the soul, which is the spirit of consciousness alone, per se. It does not have anything in it that constitutes time, space, cause, effect, karma, morality, good, bad, doesn't have any of that stuff. Our soul is pure consciousness, having the ability to be aware of, to be conscious of anything it wants. It uses the mind to create the kind of experiences we are having. So the mind as a device has created a little problem for us. The problem is that we have identified ourselves. We do not think we are the soul or the spirit of consciousness. We think we are the mind. Philosophers began to say, I think, therefore I am. It is not at all correct. The truth was, I am, therefore I have a mind and I can think. It is the use of the mind that makes you think. It's not that consciousness itself is thinking, it uses a device. And the device is the mind. But by identifying ourselves with the mind and considering that because we are a thinking machine, therefore the thinking machine is the self, we got into all the trouble that the mind could create through desire and attachment. According to Buddha, the entire suffering of a human being is arising from desire and attachment. There's nothing else. It's all mind made up. Mind has made up all this. The mind has created desires for experiences it's generated, got attached to them, and then we are pulled back into those experiences again and again. Therefore, I can't see of any way in which, situated as we are, identifying ourselves with the mind, and not only with the mind, but with the functions of the mind, such as sensory perceptions, we begin to identify that the perceptions are our own self, that the world is merely what we think we are perceiving, that there is nothing else except what we are perceiving through our senses. Not only that the sensory perceptions are built into a physical body. We are identifying ourselves 3 steps away from reality. Who we are, we don't know, because we think that's us. Wrong. We think the sensory perceptions are creating the world for us, therefore the perceptions are us. Wrong. Because they are embedded in a physical body which we generate outside of the system, therefore we are the physical body. Wrong. We're making 3 big mistakes. And by making these 3 big mistakes, we have moved away from our own self. And we really don't know who we are. So it's great that these physical things contain something, that the physical experience which ties us down also contains something that can push us back into a knowledge of our own self. And what is that which the physical experience contains? A human being, like ourselves, who comes in the form of a perfect living master and pushes us back into our knowledge of the self. A perfect living master never comes to say, follow me and follow me in the world. He says, go within yourself. He says, I am merely a reflection of your own consciousness. A perfect living master has no identity of its own. It's being projected in the same way as the rest of the creation, with the one difference. We have invested this particular projection of a perfect living master with a consciousness which is our own totality of consciousness.